Hi, my name is Dave, and I am doing this video here as part of a presentation assignment for my professional communications class at Friends University. The topic I've chosen to cover is the case for decriminalizing all illicit drugs in the United States. In 2012, there was approximately 1.5 million people arrested for a drug-related offense of some sort in the United States, according to the FBI website. Each year, that number goes in between 1 million to 1.5 million, roughly, if you look at the annual reports and things like that. According to drugsense.org in 2010, the federal government spent an estimated $15 billion to combat and prosecute drug use. State and local governments like Kansas, Wichita, spent about $25 billion in addition to that same $15 billion in that same year. According to drugwarfacts.org, of the almost 100,000 people in federal prison in 2013, half of them were there as part of some sort of drug-related offense or crime. In 2013, there were some 977,000 people in the United States on probation for drug-related crimes and things of that nature, according to drugwarfacts.org. Proponents of prohibition will and have argued and will continue to argue that allowing recreational drug use will further the decline in society, will cause crime rates to rise further, will lead to widespread disease, health problems in society. In fact, they actually argue that the government should do more to combat drug use, and plus on top of what they've already done now. They contend that even more money must be spent and harsher sentences must be handed out to make us all safe. But the evidence I found and I'll present here in my presentation will prove that their approach to the problem of recreational drug use being out of control actually makes us less safe. It causes drug use to increase. It is helping to further bankrupt a nation that is already $18 trillion in debt. The approach by the prohibitionists has clearly failed in the past 40 years. So you got to ask yourself, well, could drug decriminalization actually work in the United States? I took a look at the country of Portugal, which in 2001 decriminalized use of all drugs, recreational or whatever. And now I know that Portugal and the United States, they aren't necessarily a very even comparison, but that Portugal is a pretty good example. Since Portugal has done that in 2001, the rate of drug overdose deaths have declined dramatically. Drug use has actually declined too. The number of HIV deaths have declined. Crime rates are significantly lower in Portugal than they are in the United States. So anyway, that's kind of some information I got on Portugal. Another question to ask would be, well, if drugs are readily available or more drugs were available, wouldn't that just encourage more drug use? Wouldn't it contribute to an increasing and growing problem of an already out of control drug addiction problem and overdose problem in our country? Again, if you look at Portugal, drug use actually declined over the past 14 years. It's declined to the point to where it's half of where it was in 2001. More and more elaborate laws being passed. I think it proves the point that more and more elaborate laws being passed and more prosecution, will only lead to drug use going up. And in fact, according to the Huffington Post, in this country, drug use is at an all-time high. So another question to ask, well, what about safety? If we let people use whatever they want, wouldn't that be hazardous? Well, take a good look at alcohol. How many alcohol-related deaths that are already, out there. Countless, number of people killed in, alcohol-related crashes, over-the-counter drugs, painkillers, things of that nature. According to LiveScience.com in 2010, there were well over 6,000 women, according to this study, that died from overdosing on painkillers that are perfectly legal. So anyway, I think the point to be made off that is, if the government would emphasize education of drug dangers, responsible use, appropriate use, instead of prosecution and persecution, maybe it would encourage responsible behavior from individuals when they make choices as to what to put in their body. Another question to ask would be, wouldn't allowing people to use drugs legally contribute to more crime? Would that make us less safe? Obviously, it would cause crime rates to plummet because people would not be getting arrested for having a little bit of marijuana on them. This would obviously free up much needed jail space, space at prison, space for real criminals. It would allow law enforcement professionals to have time to pursue violent criminals, armed robbers, burglars, murderers, rapists, crimes of that nature. So in conclusion, legalizing drugs would not cause will not cause drug use to necessarily increase much higher than it is now. It's already astronomical. The evidence shows that drug use, if anything, would probably decrease. Legalizing drugs would actually cause drug overdoses to drop because government health organizations can then focus more outright on honest education to citizens. Again, not condoning the use of heroin or needles, but if people know where to get clean needles, it would lower the rate of HIV infections from hypodermic needles being shared and things like that. Drug legalization would definitely free up lots of resources in the criminal justice system. Therefore, there's more time to pursue real crime, violent crime, person-to-person crime. It would free up, obviously, tax revenue for other uses, and the drug industry could actually be taxed instead of being instead of combating this problem being a drain on taxpayers. Anyway, that concludes my report, and hope you all enjoyed. Thank you.